Now turning to another breaking news story, another election as well, this one from Brazil, where in just the past hour, the far-right President Jair Bolsonaro avoided conceding defeat to the leftist Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva after being defeated in Sunday's presidential election. His comments came more than a day and a half after the loss. Well, in his speech, Mr. Bolsonaro thanked those Brazilians who'd voted for him. He said that they'd always abided by the Constitution and would continue to do so. With that, he walked off, leaving it unclear exactly whether he was conceding. So protests have been taking place for those supporters of Jair Bolsonaro in Sao Paulo. Our South America correspondent Katie Watson is there now. Katie, so no clear concession. I wonder what that means for those people, his supporters behind you.
I mean, he didn't acknowledge the defeat, but neither did he challenge the result. And in fact, his chief of staff said that they would begin the process of transition. So I think it was 2 minutes. It was pretty bland, but it was certainly not fiery like perhaps a lot of people were expecting or fearing. I mean, people behind me, they obviously, don't agree with with the way the results have gone, and they're much more vocal about it. And most of the roadblock I'm on, all of the trucks have been moved on. It's just a few locals, people who've come in support, who say that they don't want to see Lula back in power. But I think, it's a pretty, it's not a huge amount of people now. Certainly the fact that Bolsonaro has finally come out and said makes me feel that this is probably going to be a slightly more peaceful transition than many people had feared.
That's one good aspect of it, and very quickly Brazil's chief of staff came out saying that transition process will take place with Lula taking over the office on the 1st of January next year.
Yeah, I mean, Lula has said, he said when he was just after his victory that he was concerned about how the transition would be. I don't think it's going to be very, it's not going to be very easy. I don't think the two men certainly, I'm sure, won't be talking. But the fact is that there is a process in place now. And I think that there will be, from the Bolsonaro administration, there will be some kind of attempts to move this forward. But I mean, it's a deeply divided country at the moment. I've just had somebody there shouting at me saying Lula's a thief. People here are still very angry about the situation, and that will be Lula's hardest task.
Yes, and even though we've had Jair Bolsonaro, as you say, not necessarily not conceding defeat, but certainly not questioning the result, but still, had he have been a little bit more concrete in his words, it would have potentially helped what is a very divided country, because, Katie, as you pointed out earlier, nearly half the people who voted against Lula.
Absolutely. I think, half the people woke up on Monday morning very happy. The other half were probably, seething about what the elections, the results of the elections. I mean, I think there was so much concern after Jair Bolsonaro. He made plenty of threats of talking about the voting system, saying that it was open to fraud with no evidence as such. He talked about the fact that he would only be removed from office, by God. So all of these, much more, serious threats he made. But when it came down to it, yes, it was 2 days late, but it was a very kind of simple statement, just not acknowledging it. We were never going to get an acknowledgement. He and Lula do not see eye to eye. They are absolute enemies. He was never going to concede openly and acknowledge the actual victory. But I think the fact that he's not questioning the results either is a relief for so many people here, because that will mean that it will certainly help ease the transition. He did talk about the fact that peaceful protests should be, within people's rights, and of course that might be, a bit add fuel to people behind me who feel that they can still go out and protest. But at the moment, there are his loyalists, people who are cross about that. But overall, I think a lot of people would quite like to move this on and just move Brazil on and wait and see this transition.
Katie, as always, thank you very much for just putting it into context for us. Katie Watson there from Sao Paulo. Thank you.